Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick things off with our first story, where we meet an RC plane enthusiast who managed to score the ultimate dream deal, something every hobbyist would kill for. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I'm behind the counter, but I'm not an employee. So quite a while ago, I was big into RC planes. It's a fun but expensive and at times frustrating hobby. There's a hobby shop not far from my place, and I went there often enough that the staff all knew me. We were all pretty friendly. During one particularly less than stellar day of flying, I'd trashed my Piper Cub in a rough landing. Thanks to my rapport with the staff, I'd made an arrangement. In exchange for being allowed to go behind the counter and repair my plane with their tools and equipment, I'd help out customers with tech support and small repairs. I wasn't an expert, but I knew enough to be of help to most of them. I'd make recommendations, glue on small parts, or install new equipment. I was in this arrangement for about a week. It was a lot of fun, and most customers were cool. Almost all of them never knew I didn't actually work there. Additionally, my girlfriend at the time would come by just to BS with me. But on one particular day, in walks our story star. He brought a new receiver for his RC truck. The next day, he comes back. He wants to return the new part because his RC truck is glitching. The actual store employee acknowledges him, but is currently assisting another customer. I offer to look at it for him, but he just wants a refund. Yeah, I can't help you with that. You're going to need him, gesturing to the actual employee. Why can't you do it? You'll need the real employee, I'm just the imaginary one, I say, making a joke, trying to lighten the mood. It has the opposite effect. He gets pissed. Oh, so you're just gonna sit there and be a smart butt instead of helping me? Quit bullcrapping me and get my refund. Okay, look, I didn't mean to offend you. I start apologizing. I don't want a pissed off customer to be the reason I lose my arrangement before my plane is fixed. I'm not actually employed here. I just use their stuff to fix my plane. Bullcrap, I see you in here all the time. Now quit flirting with the blonde and do it. By now, he's screaming this at me. The actual employee finally gets involved. Hey, sir, I'll be glad to help you out in just a minute, but you're not going to come in here screaming and cussing like that. And no, he does not work here. That seems to sink in, and he relaxes a little, but still pissed. All right, hurry the F up. After the cringe factor subsides, I ask him, hey, you got your truck with you? Yeah. Let me have a look at it. He steps out and returns with his rig and radio. He'd already pulled the receiver out, so I remounted it and fired it up. Sure enough, the servos are jinking the steering. Without getting too technical, I do a little diagnosing and think I find the issue. To test my theory, I pulled out a part from my plane and hook it to his truck. I was right. That component had gone bad. It would mean buying another one. I wasn't going to give him my power regulator, but if he just refunded and bought another receiver, he'd have still had the same problem. He mumbles and bitches some more as I point out where he can find his own regulator, then mutters a half-witted thanks as he buys the new part and leaves. Sadly, after that encounter, the store owner said we couldn't have our little arrangement anymore. It could have gone much worse, and he was right, but he was cool enough to finish my plane for me the next day. I never saw that guy again. Landlords from hell. I, 20-year-old male at the time, and two roommates, both 20-year-old males, rented a house near the college we attended. The house was owned by a couple in their 50s. They had left some furniture and some bookcases in the house and said they belonged to the former tenants and we could use them. When we moved in, we had no idea how nuts these people were, but we stayed for nearly 4 years. Now, we were 3 dudes in college. Of course, we left our mark in that house. However, we all grew up with excellent parents who taught us responsibility, and we made sure to deep clean the hell out of the place for 3 straight days. We then hired a carpet cleaning company to professionally clean the carpets. It was spotless. We also tossed a few of the leftover furniture because over time it had busted or been worn to crap. But other than maybe some paint, a pair of blinds, a broken sprinkler head, and oil stains on the garage floor, it looked like it did when we moved in. They arrive for the walkthrough and the woman loses her mind with rage. Apparently, the furniture was not left behind by former tenants, but pieces made by her father in the 50s. This house is the house she grew up in, apparently. She cursed us out for what felt like hours. We spent the next week tracking down the discarded items. actually getting nearly all of them back from the city's dump. Seriously, don't ask how we did it, because it was nothing short of a Christmas miracle. The only things we couldn't get back were some custom-made pillow cushions. We returned the items and waiting the dreaded deposit decision. After 30 days pass, we reach out to find how much of the deposit we'll be getting back. The man says he's still fixing things up around the house and he'll get back to us soon. Another 30 days pass, ask again. He says it's taking longer because he's doing it all himself, but he'll get to it. Another 30 days pass, says he's almost done. At this point, one of our parents tells us the window for this is closed. He owes us our full deposit and to take them to small claims court so they couldn't string us along any further. They show up, only they're putting on a show. These two very healthy, very capable people walk into court like they're on their last legs. The man uses a cane and now has to hunch to walk. The woman uses a walker she doesn't need, and her voice quivers as she talks to the judge. The acting display they put on was actually incredible. We sued them for our $1,800 deposit. They countersued us for $10,000 in damages. They claim we destroyed the home and basically had to replace floors and walls and fixtures that were never damaged. Also, part of it is $900 for the cushions we threw out. The judge buys all of it, leering at us, telling us how irresponsible we are even before we get to present our side or evidence, and how sorry he is for the couple that they have to go through this. We win our $1,800, but only because it's literally the law, but we're also ordered to pay them the full $10K. Yikes. Thinking we're screwed, we wise up and go get a lawyer who appeals the decision. We roll up into court with our bad butt lawyer, and they, thinking it'd just be us, again arrive lawyerless with only their old and feeble charade. Our lawyer tears them apart. This new judge isn't buying their nonsense this time, keeps calling them out for their inconsistencies and lies. Appeals decision comes back, we still get our full deposit back, and we only owe them $263 in damages. And our next story. How to turn 4 free donuts into 0. So this happened a great many years ago at my very first job. I worked drive-thru at Krispy Kreme Donuts. Our store had just opened and was the second in the state, so we were busy with lines out the door from day one. For those who don't know, Krispy Kreme's big draw is the hot light. When the neon orange sign is on, you can come in and get a free original-style donut, no purchase required. The first month we were open, the hot light was almost always on. In the first week, management started to notice scammers. They'd come inside for a free donut and then go through our drive-thru and get another, usually without making any purchases. It happened enough to become a problem, so we solved it by only giving out free donuts if you came inside. We put a sign up in front of the drive-thru saying to come inside for your free donut so that no one got any unhappy surprises after waiting in a long line. This didn't stop people from trying to get a free one through the drive-thru. Our boss allowed us to make minor exceptions at our discretion. If someone made a gigantic order or was handicapped, etc., we'd still give a donut if they asked. One day, a minivan came through and ordered 1 or 2 donuts. They came up asking for their free ones as well. Me: sorry, but our policy is that you must come inside for the free donuts. CBs: please, we don't want to have to get our kids out of the car. They shifted in their seats, and sure enough, there were 2 small children in car seats. I decided to make the exception for them and grabbed 4 hot donuts. CBs beamed, the kids were happy, and then they ruined it. CBs: actually, we have 5 more kids at home. Can we get donuts for them too? Me: no, I can't give away donuts to people that aren't here. I don't even have to give you these ones, but I wanted to be nice. CBs, now scowling: we want to speak to the manager about this. I shrugged and was happy to let someone else deal with these people so I could get back to my increasingly long drive-through line. I tell the manager exactly what was going on. He came over to talk to them. Manager: I'm sorry, there seems to be a misunderstanding here. CBs smiles smugly at me. As per policy, we do not give any free donuts out in the drive-thru. You're welcome to come inside, and we'll give 1 to each person that's present. Manager took the hot donuts still in my hands and put them back on the line, shut the window on the CBs, and walked away. He was as sick of beggars as the rest of us. CBs flip me off and drive away angrily. Needless to say, they didn't come inside for their freebie. Give them an inch and they try and take a mile. And our last story. HOA tried to steal my parking spot, so I took them down with a lawyer. When I bought my condo in a small building a few years ago, one of the biggest selling points was that it came with a designated parking spot. In my area, parking is a nightmare, so having my own guaranteed space was non-negotiable when I was house hunting. Everything was fine until the HOA decided to change the rules out of nowhere. Recently, the building's HOA switched trash providers and without warning sent an email stating that I was no longer allowed to park in my own spot on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The new trash service claimed that my car blocked their ability to access the dumpsters. I'll admit it's a tight squeeze to get to the dumpsters, especially after one of my neighbors built a garage that significantly narrowed the walkway. But that wasn't my problem. My parking spot was deeded to my property, which meant it legally belonged to me. The HOA couldn't just decide to strip away my ability to use it whenever they felt like it. I reached out to the HOA leader to express how unfair this was and how it significantly devalued my condo. If I couldn't use my parking spot for 2 days a week, that meant it was less valuable for me and for any future buyer. To my surprise, the HOA leader actually agreed with me. She said she would feel the same way if she were in my position, but that this was the only solution they had. Excuse me? The only solution? I told her I was open to working something out, but if they wanted to restrict my use of my legally owned parking space, they'd better be ready to compensate me. Either they buy the parking space from me and make it a no parking zone permanently, or they reduce my HOA fees in exchange for me agreeing to move my car on those days. She just said, "We can't do that." At this point, I realized they hadn't even considered the legal implications. My parking space was on my deed, meaning it was part of my legal property and would transfer with any future sale. The HOA seemed to think they could just make up the rules as they went and override legally binding property rights. What's worse, if they actually forced this rule through, it could complicate my mortgage and title. If my parking space suddenly became unusable for 2 days a week, that could create a huge legal headache if I ever wanted to sell the condo. So I called my lawyer. My lawyer dug into the situation, and we found something big. The reason the trash truck was having trouble accessing the dumpsters wasn't actually because of my car, it was because of the garage extension one of the HOA board members had built. That's right, one of the very people enforcing this ridiculous rule had built a garage extension that was restricting access. And get this, it wasn't even built correctly. It was violating code and should never have been approved in the first place. With this bombshell in hand, my lawyer drafted a formal letter to the HOA board outlining the following. They had no legal right to restrict my use of my own deeded parking space. The real obstruction was the improperly built garage extension belonging to one of their own board members. If they didn't immediately revoke their restriction, we would be taking legal action not only against the HOA, but also against the board member who illegally modified the property. The moment they got the letter, the entire tone changed. Suddenly, the HOA was extremely apologetic and willing to find a solution. Within a week, the board member's garage extension was removed and the trash truck was able to access the dumpsters as usual. The sweet, sweet victory. It was clear from the beginning that the HOA didn't actually think through their decision. They assumed I'd be like most homeowners, frustrated but ultimately compliant. They figured I'd just move my car and accept their nonsense rule. Instead, I called their bluff, found their mistake, and held them accountable. Now the HOA has learned its lesson. My parking spot remains completely mine, and I highly doubt they'll ever try something this shady again. HOAs love to act like they're the supreme rulers of a neighborhood, making up rules on the fly and expecting everyone to just nod along. But the moment you hit them with actual legal consequences, suddenly they're bending over backward to be reasonable. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.